The office hummed with the usual morning rhythm, a quiet clatter of keyboards and muffled conversations, but the air held a tension that nobody could ignore. Employees shuffled papers, sipped coffee, and kept their heads down, sensing the storm brewing. Then it hit, a voice like thunder shattered the calm. "Nobody silences me." The CEO bellowed, his fist crashing against his polished mahogany desk, sending a pen skittering across the floor. His words echoed through the open-plan office, a command meant to crush any hint of rebellion. Every head snapped up, eyes wide, as the man's fury filled the room like a living thing. If you're watching this gripping tale unfold, drop a comment below with the country you're tuning in from and let us know what you think on Midnight Tales. Elena, the new cleaner, moved through the office with quiet purpose, her broom sweeping in steady arcs. She was a shadow in the background, unnoticed by most, her dark hair tied back, her uniform crisp but unremarkable. That morning, she'd been wiping down desks, her movements precise, when the CEO's gaze locked onto her. He stood, a towering figure in a tailored suit, his face carved with contempt. Pointing a manicured finger, he singled her out as if she'd committed some unspeakable crime. The office fell silent, the kind of silence that feels like the world holding its breath. "You!" he roared, his voice a blade slicing through the stillness. "Who do you think you are, looking at me like that? I'm the authority here. You respect me, or you'll learn the hard way." Elena paused, her hands still on the broom, her eyes meeting his without flinching. There was no defiance in her gaze, but no submission either, just a calm, unshakable presence. That serenity was like a spark to dry tinder. The CEO stepped closer, his polished shoes clicking on the floor, his voice dripping with venom. "I don't like your attitude," he sneered. "We hired you to clean, not to parade around with airs of superiority. Know your place, people like you don't get a voice in my company." His words were heavy, meant to crush, to remind her she was nothing. But Elena stood tall, her shoulders square, her face unyielding. The employees around them froze, their discomfort palpable. Some stared at their screens, pretending to work, others exchanged quick, uneasy glances. They all knew the CEO's temper, his outbursts were legendary, his power absolute. Crossing him was career suicide, and everyone had learned to tiptoe around his ego. Yet that morning, something felt different. Elena's quiet strength wasn't just a challenge to the man looming over her, it was a crack in the foundation of a system built on fear. "You're wrong, sir," she said, her voice steady, cutting through the tension like a knife. "You may have power and money, but that doesn't give you the right to treat me like trash." A collective gasp rippled through the office. No one had ever spoken to him like that. The CEO's face flushed crimson, his rage erupting like a volcano. He slammed his hand on a nearby desk, scattering papers and knocking over a coffee mug. "What did you say?" he growled, his voice low and dangerous, veins pulsing in his neck. "Nobody defies me in my company, especially not someone like you. I'll teach you respect, and I'll make it hurt." His words were a promise, a threat forged in years of unchallenged dominance. The room seemed to shrink under the weight of his anger, but Elena didn't move. In a gesture that stunned everyone, she raised a single finger to her lips, signaling silence. It was a small act, but it was gasoline on the fire. The CEO staggered back, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Silencing me?" he roared, his voice shaking the glass partitions. "Who the hell do you think you are? I'll fire you right now. One call, and you'll never work again, not here, not anywhere." His threats were a familiar weapon, one he'd wielded to keep everyone in line. But Elena's calm didn't waver. She stood there, broom in hand, a pillar of dignity in the storm. The employees watched, some with fear, others with a flicker of hope. The atmosphere was electric, charged with the weight of a moment that could change everything. If this story's gripping you, hit that like button, subscribe to Midnight Tales, and share what you're feeling in the comments. The CEO's tirade continued, his voice a relentless assault. He called her nobody, a speck of dust in his empire, someone who should be grateful for scraps. But Elena's grip on the broom tightened, not in anger but as a symbol of her resolve. Then, with a calm that chilled the room, she spoke again. "Before you tried to silence me," she said, her voice clear and unwavering, "make sure I don't have something to tell the board about what happens here." The words landed like a grenade. The office went deathly quiet, every breath held. The CEO's face froze, his lips trembling between rage and something new, fear. For the first time, his unshakable power seemed to crack. He stepped closer, his voice a venomous hiss. "So, you came here with a plan, huh? You think you're smarter than me? You're nothing, and you'll regret this." But the confidence in his tone was fraying. His eyes darted around, searching for control. The employees, still as statues, began to stir. Whispers passed between them, glances sharp with curiosity. A young secretary, who'd endured years of the CEO's outbursts, clutched a stack of papers to her chest. Her hands shook, but Elena's words had lit something inside her. She stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "She's not lying," she said. "I know it too." The CEO spun toward her, his face a mask of fury. "You." He spat, pointing a shaking finger. "You dare defy me? I pay your salary, you ungrateful little—" He stopped short as the secretary held up the papers, her hands steadier now. The room buzzed with shock. The CEO lunged, trying to snatch the documents, but something extraordinary happened. Several employees moved instinctively, stepping between him and the secretary, forming a human shield. It wasn't planned, it was years of frustration boiling over, a collective spark ignited by Elena's courage. The CEO stumbled back, stunned. His weapon, fear, had always kept them in line, but now it was turning against him. Security guards burst in, summoned by his earlier call, their boots heavy on the floor. "Get her out!" he shouted, pointing at Elena. "And anyone who stands with her." But the guards hesitated, glancing at the growing murmur of employees. One guard, his voice low, asked, "What's going on here?" Elena stepped forward, her calm unshaken. "What's going on," she said, "is that we've been silenced and humiliated for years. No more." Her words rang out, a clarion call that echoed in every corner. The door at the far end of the office swung open with a bang. The board chairman strode in, flanked by two stern-faced executives. The room fell silent again, the tension thick enough to choke on. The CEO, pale as ash, forced a smile that fooled no one. "Gentlemen," he stammered, "this isn't what it looks like. Just dealing with some troublemakers trying to smear my name." The chairman took the papers from the secretary, his eyes scanning them, his brow furrowing deeper with every line. The employees seized the moment. One by one, they spoke up, their voices rising like a tide. They told of humiliations, falsified contracts, hidden frauds, and years of abuse. The CEO tried to interrupt, his voice a desperate echo, but it was drowned out. The chairman's gaze met his, cold and unyielding. "This is unacceptable," he said. "Everything will be investigated immediately." The CEO's bravado crumbled. He stammered, pleaded, but it was futile. The chairman's voice cut through like a blade. "Pack your things. You're fired, effective immediately. And trust me, legal consequences will follow." A murmur of relief swept through the office, not fear this time, but freedom. The CEO was escorted out, his face a mix of rage and shame, his empire in ruins. Elena stood in the center, her dignity unshaken. She didn't gloat or raise her voice, she didn't need to. The secretary, tears streaming down her face, hugged her, whispering thanks for doing what no one else dared. Others gathered around, their gratitude silent but profound. Elena's final words lingered like a promise. You never know who's behind the mask. Appearances deceive, but respect and dignity are non-negotiable. The office was forever changed that day, a testament to one woman's courage and the power of standing together. If this story moved you, smash that like button, subscribe to Midnight Tales, and let us know in the comments what you thought and where you're watching from. The fight for dignity isn't over, it's just beginning.